Agreed to. Of note, though, in the side of this, besides the bills and the meeting minutes, will be Zambelli Fireworks, which is the fireworks company is going to be doing our fireworks this year, June 29th. And we're also going to be granting an approval for DTE to do an easement to provide electricity to the cell tower on Morton Taylor Road by Van Born Road. Hopefully, this will improve cell service for our northern residents. In addition, we're going to be passing a few new ordinances, which are laws. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing passing a Parks and Recreation, taking our rules and making them into ordinances so that we can police the parks. Before it was just, hopefully you'll do it, now it's going to be a rule, a law. We're also going to be looking at backing some laws for Iron Bell Trail. One of them is going to take the liability of the trail from the homeowners and put it onto Van Buren, and the second one is going to say that Van Buren Township is going to maintain the trail. And finally, we're going to be doing an ordinance to change a home that has been zoned in industrial and rezone it to a residential. That'll be it. We'll move now to adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion by the Treasurer Bud, support by Trustee Miller. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. The agenda is adopted. Trustee Miller, could you make a motion for the consent agenda?
I make a motion for the consent agenda adoption, which includes 1, work study meeting minutes of May 6, 2019. 2, board meeting minutes of May 7, 2019. 3, closed session meeting minutes of May 6, 2019. 4, prepaid list of May 9, 2019. 5, prepaid list of May 16, 2019. 6, voucher list of May 21st, 2019. 7, approval of the Zambelli Fireworks Company for the 2019 fireworks show at Beck Ball Fields on June 29th, 2019, with a rain date of June 30th. 8, approval of granting DTE a 193 square foot easement on township property located at 6920 Morton Taylor Road. The easement is being created to provide electric service to the new cellular tower on Morton Taylor Road.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee Miller, supported by Treasurer Bud. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. We have no public hearings today. We're now into correspondence, announcements, and presentations. Trustee White, could you start us?
Sure. Van Buren Township is sponsoring a Health and Wellness Expo from 1 to 6, presented by September Day Senior Center, Van Buren Township, here at 46425 Tyler Road, just west of Belleville Road, on Friday, June the 7th. Free admission with reservation print to call 734-699-8918 for your reservations. Walk-ins are $3 at the door. There will be exhibits, dancing, door prizes, food, and fun. The expo will run from 1 to 4 p.m. The catered dinner will run from 4 to 5 p.m. Music and dancing will be 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And door prize drawings, you must be present to win. That's Friday, June the 7th. There's 2 dates on here.
Trustee Martin.
This is an update on the water damage from April 30th to May 2nd due to the storm. On behalf of Supervisor Kevin McNamara, I would like to thank all the residents that took the time to fill water damage and flooding assessment forms from the major storm event that occurred from April 30th to May 2nd. Excuse me. Once we received these forms from the county, we made them available on the public and on our homepage and all our social media accounts. The forms were turned over to the county on time, and they were then transferred to the state. In the past couple of weeks, the state sent out damage assessment teams to the harder hit residential sites in the area. We will continue to update our social media and website if we receive any more information requests.
Thank you. I'm just going to give a quick update on the splash pad, just to let people know that it is moving as quick as possible. Davenport Brothers Construction has signed their contract, and they have begun work. The site is being staked, soil erosion control is being put in, tree protection and removal of the old playground equipment is going on. We've also coordinated with a subcontractor to guarantee water to the existing soccer fields and baseball diamond. The splashback components have arrived already, and the pavilion, the shade sails, and the site furnishings have all been ordered. Thank you. Commissioner Butt?
Just another note that the fireworks for Van Buren Township this year will be on June 29th at the Beckfield Little League Diamonds. The rain date will be June 30th. There will be a DJ at the fireworks before, and the fireworks will start at dusk.
Trustee Miller?
Van Buren Township, it will be having a free tire disposal June 1st, 2019 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Van Buren Township Hall. Limit 7 residential tires per household. Why 7? I do not know that, but you can call the township and find out. 734-699-8926.
I don't know why 7.
Had to ask.
I know that the county allows us to get rid of them for free, and they tell us 7, so we say 7, and we get, I want to say thousands, but we fill up 2 dumpsters, and we think we're gonna fill 3 this year. Lot. They wrap around this building, people. I'm sorry, trustee Frazier, thank you.
Okay, well, I want to announce the Van Buren Today magazine that's going to be coming out this week. And it's going to go to all our residents. It will be available. And this is our premier edition. It comes out quarterly. And the first edition is based on safety, how safe Van Buren Township is, from our police and fire to our drinking water. The drinking water safety report is also in here, and you'll find lots of information on different businesses and different activities, different events that will be occurring in the township. So it will be available to every resident and available at the Chamber of Commerce, I think, probably the library, probably the museum will have a copy, Township Hall will, but it's going to be something that will be a good PR for, we hope to acquaint residents outside of the township with our wonderful township, Van Buren Township, and a good place to live and raise your family.
All right, anybody from the public? Next is public comment. Anybody from the public on new or unfinished business? We move on to we have no unfinished business, new business. The first item is to consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 050719, parentheses 1, and approval of the amendment of charters of Chapter 62, Parks and Recreation, Article 1, in general, to amend Section 62-1 to 6225. Can I get a motion?
Supervisor, I make a motion to consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 05-07-19, paren 1, and approval of the amendment of Chapter 62, Parks and Recreation, Article 1, paren in general, to amend Section 62-1 to 62-25.
Support.
I'm going to, trustee White is three-way tie there, but I don't think he's on one yet. All right, Director Akers, could you take it?
Yes, I'll just give a brief overview. We've discussed this at work study and at the prior meeting under the first reading. This ordinance is essentially an ordinance which codifies a lot of the park rules in the township. And by codifying the park rule, what it does is it helps our police department with the ability to enforce those park rules. So I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay. Yeah, basically, we've had these rules forever. But the problem with these rules are they're just rules, and when police officers are go in to enforce these rules, they really have there's no basis of law for them to enforce them. They now have a basis for law, so if we pass this today. Does anybody want to comment? Trustee
through the
Frazier.
Supervisor. Could you read a list of the rules, or do you have that handy? I
The-
know
the ru-
there's
It's very large. It's,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
book.
just the highlight of the, like, no alcoholic beverages allowed in the park.
The park shall be open to the public from 10 a.m. to dusk, those kinds of rules.
Yeah.
Park hours, closure of the parks, not littering in the parks, not drinking at certain hours, you can't steal somebody's pavilion if they paid for it, things like that.
This will be on the township website under our ordinances, so the residents can read what it all entails.
They're pretty much, common nature, good, human nature rules. I mean, you act like a human being, no problems. Any other questions? This is a roll call vote, so Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Yeah, Trustee Frazier?
Yes.
Yes.
Treasurer, or, sorry. Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Supervisor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I think they're all roll calls today. Okay, next item is number 2. Trustee Martin, did you want to take that?
To consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 05-07-19, parent 2, and approval of the amendment of Charter 74, parent street sidewalks and other public places, Article 2, parent sidewalks, to amend section 74-27.
Support.
27. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I've got a motion, I've got support for Treasurer Bud. This item, Director Akers.
Thank you. This ordinance amendment essentially, in short, excludes pathways and sidewalks which are designated as the Iron Bell Trail from the maintenance requirements under our snow removal ordinance. So under this ordinance, for those areas which are designated as the Iron Bell Trail, residents will not be required to remove snow.
Okay. We have an ordinance that you clear your sidewalks. But if you have this trail in front of you, it looks like a sidewalk, but it's a 10-foot wide sidewalk. So we're going to maintain that.
By legal definition, correct?
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Frazier? Trustee Miller? Treasurer Bud?
Yes.
Supervisor McNamara?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Number 3, Trustee Frazier, you want to take this one?
Okay. I make a motion to consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 05-07-19-3, and approval of the amendment of chapter 74, streets, sidewalks, and other public places, Article 2, sidewalks, to amend section 74-26.
Support.
Okay. All right, Director Akers.
Thank you. Very similar to the last ordinance that we just considered. This ordinance also exempts the Iron Bell Trail from some of the other maintenance responsibilities that the adjacent property owners have on sidewalks. Specifically, keeping the sidewalks to be maintained and in good repair. Again, this essentially, those sidewalks which are designated as part of the Iron Bell Trail will be excluded from the residents' maintenance responsibilities, and they will be borne by the township.
Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Frazier?
Here, yes.
Trustee Miller? Trustee White? Yes. Trustee Martin? Yes. Treasurer Bud? Supervisor McNamara? Yes. Motion passes.
Comment on this, please, Supervisor. It is my understanding that what these two ordinances do is they take the responsibility away from the homeowners or anything that's in front of their property to do anything to the trail if it runs in front of their property on both of them. Is that correct? The homeowner?
Yes, within reason. I mean, if they keep their bikes on top of the thing and somebody trips over their bikes, it's still their responsibility.
To remove the bike.
Yeah, to remove the bike. I mean, yeah, so, it's, yes.
But the homeowner will have no
But
responsibility.
trip and
as-
fall, things like that,
Right,
whereas
right.
if you have a trip and fall on your sidewalk in front of your house, it is your responsibility.
Right, but the homeowner will have no responsibility as far as the maintenance, snow removal, or anything else.
No, correct. For the Iron Bell Trail,
Correct.
okay. Because there will be offshoots from the Iron Bell Trail, which will be more like sidewalks probably, would be my guess. But that's years away.
I have a question. So I'm not clear on this part. So if two bicyclists go in different ways, crash, whose responsibility is that? That's the township's responsibility, correct? Our liability?
Bicyclists, if we,
Oh.
if we do not maintain it, if we were to not maintain this trail and say we had a sidewalk that has 3 inches difference in the thing, and somebody were walk along our trail and trip over that. If that was a sidewalk, it would be the homeowner's responsibility. On the trail, it would be the township's responsibility. So we would have to maintain that there are no trip and fall hazards and things like that.
But other than that, like if they bump into each other or something, and somebody falls off and breaks his arm, that's the bicyclist's responsibility.
Yes. That's how I understood it as well.
I've been in county government for a long time, and I can tell you, we get sued all the time for sidewalks, but I can never remember not a single solitary one time that it was for anything except for a trip and fall from an uneven sidewalk. So pretty much that's what you gotta watch out for. Okay. So we've already covered that one. So we're moving on now to number 4. Who has not gone? Who would like this one?
I'll take it.
Okay, Treasurer Bud, you never asked.
To consider approval of the second reading of ordinance 050719, parent 4, to rezone parcel B 125-83-105-99-0011-000, otherwise known as 1123 Savage Road, from M1 Light Industrial to R1B Single Family Residential.
Support.
Okay. I have a motion by Bud, supported by Trustee Miller. Treasurer Bud. Excuse me, Director Akers.
Thank you. This request, which we've seen before, is similar to many of the other rezoning requests. It's in an area of the township where there's a lot of single-family homes on property which is zoned M1 Light Industrial. A number of these homes have come up for sale, and the buyers of these homes have had difficulty getting financing due to the legal non-conforming zoning. So because of that, the applicants have requested a rezoning from M1 to R1B, which is a single-family residential district. The request is in compliance with the township's master plan. It was recommended by the Township Planning Commission at a meeting last month, I believe. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Through the chair? Director, so this was this zoned originally incorrect? Was there an error here?
No, in our zoning map, this whole area, it's Martinsville Road to the east towards the city of Belleville, north of Savage. A number of properties in that area were zoned industrial at some point in the past. I haven't been able to identify if it was in the 80s or the 90s. I think at one time there might have been an industrial development planned, or there might have been some idea for an industrial development, but it never panned out. And because of that, the zoning had never been changed back. So what we're seeing, because we've seen a handful of them in prior years, but as these properties sell, as we have buyers who are trying to get mortgages, they're having more and more difficulty after after the financing rules were tightened after the 2008 crisis. So a number of these properties are left over. Every time we have somebody who comes forward, we're asking them to talk to their neighbors, to let them know about the legal non-conforming zoning, so they can come in and request a zoning change. But so no, to give a long answer to a short question, it wasn't an error. This is just a portion of our zoning map where we have a lot of residential properties zoned industrial.
So this area, this particular area, some of the properties were zoned industrial. Were the residents aware of this type of zoning? And if so, is there a taxable value difference between industrial and anything else here? I mean, I look at this and I think, were they being taxed at a higher rate because they were industrial
Well, I
rather
know,
than residential?
I mean, with regards to the zoning, some of them do know it's zone industrial and some of them don't. You know, we try to educate people as they come in and identify it. And, you know, a lot of the people who are rezoning didn't know it, so that's why we're trying to get ahead of it. As far as property taxes goes, while I'm not the township assessor, I do know that with assessing, the rule of thumb is they base their taxes on what's existing on the property, not necessarily what the zoning of the property is. So I don't think any of them would have had to pay any disproportionate share of property taxes as a result of the M1 industrial zoning, just because it's been a residential area for a considerable amount of time.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because I would feel horrible if these residents were paying a higher tax rate because of zoning they were unaware of. So thank you for the clarification.
Through the chair.
Trustee Frazier.
You know, there are, on Martinsville there were a couple of little industries there. I think that's why it got zoned industrial. And the same thing's true on Savage, where there's a lot of residential and then there's a few, you know, different industries who have gone in there and gone out and whatever. So I just wonder if we couldn't just change that portion of the map back to residential? Or does it have to stay industrial? I mean, can't we take the initiative to change it to residential or not?
Well, we could. It's not usually a policy of the township historically. It has been not to change zoning without having a request from the property owners. Because as you had indicated, there are some properties over there that are industrial uses. So that's why, rather than just taking the approach of doing a mass rezoning, we've been trying to reach out individually as we run across people to let them know what the zoning of their property is and offer up the ability for them to apply for a rezoning.
Excuse me,
Does it-
just on that point, I'm going to give it right back to you. Last week, I had him draft a letter. We did a rewrite this morning. We're sending a letter out to all the real estate agents in the area. They've seen, what's happened is we've had a slew of these little residences that are in M1 areas. They assume they're in residential areas. The real estate agents assume they're in residential areas. They sell their house. They've got to close in 30 days, and they find they have to go through a 90-day rezoning process with us, which by law is about what it takes, right? 60 to 90?
60 to 90 days.
Okay, all right. At any rate, so I'm sending the letter out to them to tell the real estate agents, you need to do your due diligence when you sign that person up, not when you sell the property. So, but
Well,
we're stuck with this.
It might be helpful if we, you know, where we have this mixed zoning, it might be helpful to provide that to homeowners and to realtors so that they know the sections in the township that have dual, they must have dual. How did they get those houses on there? If it was, this is what I question. If the area is zoned industrial, how in the heck did they get the right to build a residence there unless they would have had it changed to residential when they started building those houses?
My best guess, Trustee Frazier, is a lot of the homes predate the 80s. And I suspect that the zoning change happened sometime in around the 80s or 90s. Those properties may have been zoned residential at one point when all the homes were built. But at some point between then and now, the zoning of the property had changed.
So that property was probably zoned residential, is what our best guess is. And then these little factories that wanted to come in came to the township and said, hey, I need industrial zoning. And so the township took it upon themselves to change the whole zoning area there to industrial, which is totally unfair to those residents if they were there first. The township should have just, blocked off certain areas. I mean, that's unfair for a resident to be there. And they're thinking, I'm a resident, I'm zoned residential, but then when they go to the bank says, hey, the township says you're in an industrial zone. And then they gotta pay, I just think the township needs to take the initiative here. And that we need to do something about getting it either, I mean, at this point, is it zoned residential and industrial?
Can't have two zones.
It's only zoned industrial, but we've got a number of residents there.
Well,
Oh, may I? We are gonna go through a complete, we're going through, what is it called, master planning?
Update.
A master plan update. And through our boards, we can redo the whole thing. And we are probably going to look at redoing those. But you can't just change the zoning on something because everybody that owns the non-homes will sue you because you've just taken their property and made it residential from
Well,
industrial.
couldn't they be grandfathered in?
Well, there's empty land and they want to sell it to somebody to build something.
I think,
What do you mean?
I think what would, I mean, if we were going to engage an effort like this, I think what the best option would be for us to do is identify the properties that are zoned industrial that have single-family homes on them, or the properties that are, because there's a couple properties on Savage that are landlocked adjacent to single-family homes. What we could do is we could send out a letter to those owners and ask them if they wanted to request the rezoning and either do it for no fee or reduced fee or something along those lines. I mean, I think that would be the proactive approach. So that way we're giving the individual property owners the option to do it. And if they choose to do so, we'd be able to facilitate it for them. And by doing it all at once, it would be more efficient administratively because we would be able just to do one notice, one mailing, rather than 30. So, I mean, that could be an option if the board wishes to do that.
Well, I think it's only fair to the residents, that they're in kind of a tight situation because, they may have bought there and they don't know if they're residential or industrial. And then they go to sell and it takes them an additional 60 days to 90 days. And they're maybe buying a bigger house in another subdivision or something, hopefully in Van Buren Township, but, it could hold up their whole process and their whole deal. So I think it's only fair to the residents that that letter that you're sending out says to the residents, start the rezoning process now on your residence. Because if they don't, is this my understanding? If, let's say, the residence doesn't apply for rezoning, then when the residents put it up for sale, they could say zoned industrial.
Yes.
Yes.
So they could have, other neighbors could have another industry go in next to them.
If they could.
And that could change the whole, atmosphere of the neighborhood. And it could affect their property values. If they have, those businesses on Martinsville and on Savage Road are small. They're not, I can't remember the one on Martinsville, but it's a small little factory. And it could affect their property values greatly with this not knowing what your property is zoned. It should be up to the resident. We should be advocating, I don't know if we should be advocating for the residents or for the industrial,
Supervisor.
So,
Was it, actually, trustee Miller, did you already go once on this? Okay, Miller then White.
I have to ask the question, there's two questions I want to ask. So when they come to closing, and or they're getting close to closing, and they find out that, oh, wow, we're zoned residential, and they have to hold up that closing, is that an additional cost that fell on them? That's not right. Two, if there's several acres for sale off of Martinsville and Savage, so you're telling me that if it's zoned industrial, they can put a factory right near those homes? And is this, I'll go one more. Is this the only area of the township that we're having this challenge?
So whether or not they could build a factory, I mean, in theory, the use would be allowed, but they would need to assemble the amount of property in order to do it, because they have to do things like parking and stormwater retention. It requires a lot of property.
There's quite a few acres.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they could accrue enough homes and get enough people to sell, in theory, they could do that.
There's enough acreage for sale without the homes. That's why I'm asking.
With regards to additional costs and fees, I mean, it would depend on the mortgage company and how that process works with the buyer. You know, if it takes longer time, they could renegotiate a contract, and maybe the seller might lose some money over that. I mean, it depends on the individual situation. And then the third, could you repeat the third question? I'm sorry.
What was my third
I
question?
I have a question that goes
No.
with yours.
We got White
Yours
and you, yeah,
question.
and then we'll go, yeah. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Is there any other area in the township
Yes.
that we're having this problem or this challenge? That was my third question.
I don't know.
I'm not, the only,
We should know. Yeah.
the only other area that I'm aware of that has some challenges with zoning at times is the Haggerty subdivision. At times has issues if people want to build additions on homes, just because those lots were smaller than what our current zoning setbacks. It doesn't give them a whole lot of buildable envelope. As far as just is this issue where we have industrially zoned property or non-residentially zoned property and a number of single-family homes, there's not any other areas that comes to mind that has the same issue as this area. This area seems to be kind of unique, where it seemed like there had been some plans for industrial development there that never happened. It is master planned for residential, so the future land use plan of the township has the area set up to be residential. It's just, it had been left over from a different plan, a different era.
Okay.
So, one more thing. When all those new homes got put in, how did it become residential if it was already industrial? With the newer homes, not the 80s homes.
That part was. It was just the other side of the street.
Okay.
Trustee White.
It is my opinion that the property that we're discussing right now was probably residential, and some person bought it, a couple of properties, and put a small building on one property, and then left the other one with a house on it, and it's continued to be that way for many years. We have the same situation down on Haggerty Road. On the west side of Haggerty Road, about 300 feet north of me, there is a small machine shop or building shop. And he was in there when in 1965. He's still there today functioning. And this is probably 150 feet frontage blended in with all the residential places all around him. And that's a situation that happened on Martinsville Road with the old Horst trailer hitch company. And when they turned out trailer hitches, thousands of trailer hitches on the horse property on south of Savage on Martinsville. So, pardon? Draw tight, right, draw tight. And that was that way. So there's issues like this back in the 50s and 60s. It was allowed because they wanted a small business in for the tax evaluation on them. And there's still a few of them around, and some of them are working, some of them are not. And as they leave, then their business closes. I think that at that point in time, the township should consider the zoning of it, how the zoning is going to go. But once it's zoned, either residential or industrial, then residents or somebody has to step up and make a change and say, hey, look, I don't like this in my neighborhood. Come to the township and make that. Real estate agents should research properties that they sell and know and understand what they're selling to a customer or a resident, because that could come back to bite the agent pretty well too.
In defense of the real estate agents, really quickly, it's more of the banks that changed the world.
Well, I understand that. I understand that, but it should just be common practice that they know how a property is zoned and everything, and tell someone, because I know that the property that I bought was farmland, and it was rezoned to home property for certain instances of it. And that's a situation that we all need to understand. And you know, just to show you how things have advanced, Haggerty Road used to be a grade crossing. You pulled up Haggerty Road to the freeway, you stopped and you looked one way, and if waiting on traffic to clear, then you moved to the center lane, and then you looked the other way. When traffic on the freeway cleared, you drove on Haggerty Road north until the bridge was put in. And I remember that happening, and there's a lot of advancements and a lot of things, and the historical features, the how property was used has all changed, and you know, we'll just have to take it a parcel at a time as it comes up to us, and so that we know and understand the best use of that property. And it's just history repeating itself.
I had one.
1.5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason the banks have instituted this change is because it affects the property value. I just want to say that. Banks are doing that for that reason. Belleville Road is another one that has some properties on Belleville Road are residents, and they're advertising as zoned industrial. There's one near Ecorse Road. It's been for sale for 2 or 3 years that has been advertised as industrial. So I'm just saying we need to maybe, you know, look at it. And as far as the corner, Country Walk is on Savage, and the corner of Savage and Martinsville there on the side of Riggs Park. Now, there's a good chunk of land there. I don't know if the developer owns it or who owns it, but if it is zoned industrial, because across the street it is, then maybe it would be possible that a small factory could go in there. And people in Country Walk might be upset because, you know, anytime industrial goes into a residential neighborhood, it affects the value of the property. That's why they went to all subdivisions. So I just want to say that.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, hearing no further discussion, I call for a roll call.
Trustee Frazier.
Yes.
Miller. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Treasurer Bud. Supervisor McNamara.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Reports, we have none. Public comment from non-agenda items. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Hearing no. We will move down to board comment for non-agenda items. Anybody from the board wanting to speak on any issues? I will say that I have contacted Waste Management today. I have instructed my assistant, given her the paperwork for the lease in the Fifth Amendment, and we're sending that to Pat McCauley. I fully plan on coming to the board with the lease because it is my belief that no matter what the dollar number is, if it's a purchased property or it's a lease, the board should have a last say. So we're moving forward. I've also contacted the Midwest Director for Waste Management and let him know. Okay, 1 year.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, I had a
Support.
question. I had a question before.
Okay.
Okay, regarding waste management. Okay, I think that one of the trustees asked about, you know, building a DPW building by the water tower at the work study yesterday. And I think you should share on why that might not even be feasible because of the, it's not the cost of building the building, but the cost of putting in a sewer.
Right now, the cost of the building would be a big part of it, but we have a wet area There's a sewer that feeds that area, and it goes underneath Quirk Sub to McBride. And if you saw the front page of the Belleville Independent, you saw the house that was underwater. That sewer, as according to Wayne County, does not exist. They say it's ours. We say, we've never put a sewer in like that. We say it's theirs. That is going to be a very expensive sewer to fix. It must be fixed before you build anything on that water tower site.
Now, are you talking about the house that was on McBride that got flooded out, the tri-level?
That same sewer.
Okay, they're on that sewer. And, I mean, who's gonna fix that so that the homeowner doesn't get flooded out again?
Van Buren doesn't do that work. That's Wayne County work.
Well, I guess you're gonna have to, put the screws to Wayne County
Don't
to
you have-
make them, fix that sewer, because if they don't, that homeowner could be ruined again. There's nothing saying we won't get another kind of rain that we had
You're right.
then.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that sanitary
there?
sewer or is that drainage?
Storm.
Storm drained.
But this is one of their storms.
Well,
Am I correct?
I just think it can't be ignored. It has to be looked at.
But it's just, they've refused to acknowledge it. Would that be safe, Jim? Okay. All right, hearing nothing further, call for adjournment.
I said support.
Adjourn.
Yeah.
Bud, Miller? Hearing no, all right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.